Welcome to episode number 113 of Cheesesteaks and Controllers, presented by Fox PHL The Gambler, 102.5 FM, 1480 AM, iHeartRadio, Philadelphia, and wherever you get your podcast. My name is Jason Finelli, and I am the esports and gaming insider for Fox PHL The Gambler, and we are set to have a huge show on a Wednesday. This episode delayed a couple of days from Friday to Wednesday because AEW Dynamite back at the Liacouras Center tonight at 7 p.m. And I have Nyla Rose, the native beast, here on the show talking about video games and wrestling and Serpentico and Marina Shafir and all that good stuff. Great interview with her. Followed up with another interview with MegaCat Studios making Wrestlequest, a turn-based RPG that will feature some of the best names in 80s wrestling. And we wrapped that up with a third interview, moving from pro wrestling to pro fighting games, talking with one of the top Tekken pros on the scene. His name is Anakin. So 3 great interviews coming your way. But before we get into any of that, let's talk about the 6 in 60 seconds. Your Philadelphia Fusion split the first weekend of Overwatch League Countdown Cup qualifiers, losing to the LA Valiant 3-2 before beating the Hangzhou Spark 3-1. Loud from Brazil wins the 2022 Valorant Champions Tour Championship, defeating Optic Gaming 3-1 in the Grand Finals. Both bottom lane players for Fnatic's League of Legends team have produced positive COVID tests, granting the team an emergency sub from Riot Games to begin Worlds 2022. Elsewhere, E3 2023 will take place June 13 to 16, with industry-only days on June 13 and 14, a industry and public hybrid day on June 15th, and a public day on the 16th. Multiverses adds Rick Sanchez from Rick and Morty in a brand new update, which also changes the free character given after the tutorial from Wonder Woman to Shaggy. And finally, Ted Lasso and AFC Richmond will be included as playable team in FIFA 23 when it launches in just a few days. Those are your 6 in 60 seconds. Yes, folks, those were your 6 in 60 seconds for the short week, admittedly, but although I did miss last Friday. E3 2023 coming back with industry-only days. I cannot tell you how happy that makes me, but we'll talk about that later. Right now, we have a very important interview with a very important influencer, by her own words, not mine. AEW Dynamite back in the Liacouras Center this Wednesday, or tonight, since this episode is posting on Wednesday, tonight at 7 o'clock p.m. And I have with me one of my favorite follows on Twitter and one of my favorite wrestlers in the ring. We have Nyla Rose. Nyla, how are you today?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to be on these sorts of things, so I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Certainly. So I have to ask you right off the top of your head,
about the Nyla Rose impersonator shirt?
Yeah, she is wearing a shirt that says Nyla Rose impersonator, and 5% of me is like, oh my God, am I being trolled right now? But I have to ask you, so it's about that sort of like social media presence, that outgoing presence that you have. How are you so good at it? And also, too, as like a side question, what did Serpentico do to you that has caused this?
So we'll start at the top. Serpentico was born. So that's,
oh no!
Right off the bat, that just irritated me. As far as being good at Twitter, I don't know. Like I think it's a cross section of a multitude of things. When I grew up, there was no internet, which is a wild thing to say out loud.
Yeah.
I also hate myself a little bit for saying that out loud.
I'm right there with you.
On public record. But there was no internet. So getting in on the ground floor of internet culture and memes. Back in my day, memes were a very specific set of jokes. But now it's just kind of like anything that's sort of internet humor is a meme. So getting on the ground floor of those things and just kind of growing up with internet culture, I think bestowed upon me a gift, if you will, to have sort of like a pulse on pop culture, on internet culture, like almost at all times. And I guess I relate.
Okay. That's fair. Yeah, I'm with you on the, back in my
I don't
day.
know. That's total hypothesis. I have no idea.
No, it's the truth. But back in my day, we had the memes where it was just a drawn face that was making a very loud yell, and we just had to deal with that. Kids now, they can make memes. They can just take a screenshot from whatever show they're watching, and all of a sudden, there's hundreds. You have it too easy, children. That's what we're trying to say. So, sort of in that vein, a lot of professional wrestlers now are putting themselves out there on Twitch streaming. You have your own channel. I'm not sure if you've done it, if you've been able to sit down and do that for a while. I went and looked at your channel. I didn't see any recent videos or anything scheduled.
Unfortunately, yeah, no, not recently. But yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, you're fine.
It breaks my heart.
Yeah.
I do love Twitch streaming. I love being able to connect with everybody. Just schedule is crazy.
Sure.
Between juggling the wrestling schedule side of things, a few other projects outside of wrestling, and then home life, real life, being a parent, and just trying to juggle all of that. When the day is done, it's like I have no time for myself. I have to squeeze in going to the gym or like just something for my own peace of mind, and it's just like time runs out every once in a while, and it's super unfortunate. I definitely don't get to stream as much as I wish that I did, but hopefully we'll get on there soon.
Now, that actually it answered my question before I even got a chance to ask it. Do you enjoy it? What is it you enjoy about Twitch streaming? I know when I do it for like the 2 or 3 people that actually watch me, it's just fun seeing them react in chat to things I'm doing, whether it's playing a game or even like opening a pack of Pokemon cards or something like that. That interaction to me, I think, is the best part. Would you agree with that?
Oh, for sure. It's a little bit of everything. I mean, I've grown up playing games. I've always loved playing games. And for those who do watch my stream, for those who don't, you may like to know that I don't just play games. Occasionally I'll review some stuff, or I'll even get a little crazier and do food challenges.
Ooh.
And I let everybody come up with crazy foods they want me to try. So I think it's that, like you said, that interactive aspect of it where they have an input and they get to witness the output in real time. I think is a huge joy for them, and just entertaining people and knowing that I'm bringing them joy is a joy for me. So like you said, that interactiveness really plays to me.
Sorry, I'm still laughing at the fact that you said Serpentico was born. That's
It's irritating, right? Like you're like rubbing your head. It's so grating.
It's so good. So I'm noticing the tattoo on your arm, Legend of Zelda. So I should ask, what are your favorite games of all time? Or if Zelda's your favorite franchise, what is your favorite from that franchise? What does Nyla Rose like to play when she has some spare time?
You scared me for a minute. You said you're noticing. I think so. You notice all the junk in the background.
Oh no!
It's Halloween costumes.
Oh,
if anybody's just listening to this, it's Halloween costumes behind me. I feel like a hoarder because I got all my Halloween costumes out, and I was like, oh, this would be kind of a cool background, maybe like a talking point. I'll just leave them out. I turn on the camera and I'm like, I look like a hoarder. Like, I've got 60 seconds to hide this. Like, there's no way. I got to sacrifice. So
look, I'm not much better. I have a stack of cups. I have the strolling from my kid. I have the lights, which are supposed to be Eagles colors, but now that I'm looking at the camera, they look like Cowboys colors, which is awful.
See, the camera betrays us.
It does.
It betrays us.
It certainly does.
Those are Eagles colors and Halloween costumes, kids.
That's right.
No, the Zelda tattoo. I'm a huge Zelda fan. For me, Ocarina, I would put at the top of the list, but really every Zelda game, with the exception of the Philips 3DO.
Oh, hey,
CDI,
excuse me, princess. That was the cartoon, actually. That wasn't
except of those, but like all of them are great. Wind Waker grew on me. Oracle, Seasons and Ages on the Game Boy Advance.
Good games.
Those are solid games. I just love Zelda.
Do you have a specific wish list for Tears of the Kingdom now that we know what that game is called?
Honestly, I don't. But I do. I have a giant hope that the weapons systems, with the weapons breaking, I thought I was going to hate it much more than I did. but I got used to it. So
Sure.
I don't know if that played into it, but I do wish there was a way to like fortify your weapons and like lessen the frequency with which they break, or like repair them.
Yes.
And you don't just lose them outright. Like if they can just tweak that a little bit, I'll be super happy.
To me, I think repairing or even be able to craft weapons would be number one on my list, because you already have the cooking portion, so you have a mechanic where people can make things, so they know that they're used to that part. So if you expand that to the weapon system, I'm right there.
And a cookbook. You
a cookbook.
A cookbook with like a list of recipes, as you don't have to remember or use your own personal journal because you're a huge nerd like me who just wrote down everything.
I don't blame you for that at all.
Because you had some pages left over from when you played Skyrim. That's very specific, but you get what I'm saying.
How big is that notebook? I'm imagining like the Necronomicon, this giant book of Skyrim and Zelda notes.
It might as well be.
That's awesome. So we did talk about your lack of time right now in Twitch streaming, so the answer to this might be unfortunately nothing. But are you playing anything right now? What are you playing right now?
I am. It's not nothing.
Good.
I rekindled my love for Assassin's Creed. It never dwindled. It never dwindled. But I got game distracted. When Valhalla came out, there were like 90 other things that came out, and it was like right around the time I was getting into the Twitch thing.
That was a busy year, yeah.
Yeah, so like I touched on it, and then I think I jumped to, I don't even know what, I jumped to like 12 other games, and it just kind of like got lost in the wind. And then one of my followers on Twitch, I'm not gonna say his name because I don't know if he wants that out there, but I allow people to like sponsor things, and he's like, no, you gotta play Ghost of Tsushima. It's amazing. Like I guess he had some points left over, so he gifted me that. He's like,
cool.
I don't care. Just play it on stream. You gotta. I was like, okay, let's do it. So I got really into that.
He was not wrong. No,
he was not wrong at all.
I
forever in his debt for recommending that. It was a phenomenal game. But now I've since circled back to Valhalla.
Cool.
Huge Assassin's Creed fan as well. So I was able to jump right into that, and it was like I never missed a beat. So that's what we're playing now.
That's awesome.
Coming up on the end of it, I promise everybody listening, if you join me on Twitch, I'm not going to finish the game without you. We started on Twitch.
Okay.
I'm doing some of the side quests. I've been doing some other stuff. We do check-ins, but I'm not going to finish it without you.
So you're taking the approach that I take when I am playing a game with my 6-year-old. Whenever we're playing together, I do all the stuff she wants, and then when she goes to bed, I do all the stuff you have to do, so that way when the audience is back, I can do the fun stuff. Makes a lot of sense.
Pretty much.
So I'm curious, when you played Ghost of Tsushima, how did you play it? So that, like, did you use English or Japanese? Did you use any of the cool like Kurosawa filters? Like, what was your method?
So I tried to play it so I don't know if this is like an industry term. I've never heard anybody say it. Like, I play it natural, meaning like no enhancements, as it's meant to be played.
Okay.
Kind of like a baseline difficulty. Excuse me, all of that. The game is so massive, so expansive.
Huge.
I did not account for that. It would have taken forever. Yeah. So just to kind of like breeze through the game, we bumped down the difficulty just so we could like experience the story. So everybody wasn't tuning in every week and just watching me do the same thing,
Yeah, that's fair. That's completely fair.
We bumped down the difficulty so we could experience the story. And then a few people said they couldn't keep up with the Japanese. So I then switched over to English. We had the subtitles. I got enough of the experience for myself, but I want to make it, friendly for everybody.
Right. Now, that's an interesting dichotomy that you talk about there. When you're streaming on Twitch and you're performing for an audience, basically, while you're playing these games, you want to play them a certain way. Like, I played it Japanese with subtitles the entire time, normal camera. I didn't get into the Kurosawa stuff, like the black and white grainy. I didn't do that. But if I had people watching me, they may not find that as interesting, or as you said, they may not be able to find follow the Japanese talking. So I'm wondering, how hard is it to balance, like, I really want to play it this way, but it makes more sense to play it for my audience this way. What do I do? Like, how do you find that middle ground?
I cheat. I cheat. I do cooking show magic, as I call it.
There it is.
You ever watch a cooking show and they're like, all right, and then you put a little bit of salt, you put a little bit of cheese, and we pop it in the oven. But look, we already had one made. So I'll play the game my way for my experience off screen. And then when it's time to jump on film, I'll jump back to a different save that I have specifically for the stream, and I'll play it the way they want it played.
That's cool.
Which I say cheating because I kind of already know, maybe there's a puzzle or like which route I'm supposed to take. And then I think, I don't know. Am I to go left? Help me out, guys.
Where do I push the boulder?
Yeah, but no,
That's awesome.
For the most part, I'm playing live, real time on camera with everybody. But super, super, super rare. I'm like, I ain't got time for this. I want to play it this way.
Yeah,
I'm going to do this.
I'm going to do it my way, and that's just how we're going to do it. That makes sense.
But I do tell them that I've done that, so at least I'm transparent. I'm a fun-loving criminal. I'll cheat you out of your money, but I'll tell you that I'm going to do it.
Yeah, that's fair. At least you give them the opportunity to react before you act.
Yeah.
So let's get into the in-ring stuff for a little bit. I've noticed that recently you've been teaming a lot with Marina Shafir, building chemistry as a team there. You have a nice little win streak going on Elevation last I checked.
Oh, yeah.
About three or four.
What?
Yeah.
With Vicky?
It's a heck of a team. It really is. So how is it teaming with her? How are you building that chemistry, working out what works for you, even when you're not, in the middle of a match, like working out like new team moves and stuff like that? How is she as a tag team partner?
She's fantastic. She is so gung-ho. She is like ready to get down, get grind. I have to calm her. Me, the embodiment, the physical embodiment of chaos personified, has to calm somebody down.
Oh no,
that's how ferocious and hungry she is. And I absolutely love it. I'll throw anything out there. I'm like, hey, do you think you could hold somebody up by their pinkies? She's like, yeah, I'll try it. Let's do it. Let's go. And I'm like, all right. Okay, you don't want to hear the rest of this plan, but sure, okay.
Just hold them by their pinkies. Interesting.
So in a way, we really do have like I've kind of built my own Triforce. We've got courage, wisdom, power, like right there.
Oh, that's cool.
With me, Vicky, and Marina, just in the ring, doing what we do best. Each one of us has our strengths, and we lend those to the other, and that's how we all kind of gel and come up and help each other and help push each other.
I mean, I wonder, is Triforce itself trademark? Because that's a stable right there. That's a stable name right there. You could do like the DDP as your hand symbol. Hey man,
listen, I don't want Miyamoto coming after me. Anybody who dreams up Goombas, no, I don't want him coming after me. We'll stick with the Vicious Vixens. Thank you.
That's funny. Oh, I do like that name too. So let's also talk about, just to kind of mix gaming and wrestling here, AEW Fight Forever, obviously coming out very, very soon. Had some nice showings at Gamescom and TGS. You were announced as part of the playable roster a while ago, earlier this year. First of all, how cool is that, to be a gamer your entire life and now be actually in one?
It's banana sandwich. It's not just bananas, banana sandwiches.
Sandwiches.
It's crazy. I don't know what to do with myself. Like, I'm actually going to have to play the game. Anytime I get a game like this, I spend the first week and a half playing the creator wrestler. Now I'm going to be able to just jump right into the game and just beat the hell out of Serpentico right out the gate. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. I'm going to have all this free time. It's fantastic.
I mean, you're going to beat up Serpentico. That's what you're going to just all that extra time to beat up.
That's how I'm going to learn the controls.
Because he was bored. I'm sorry, I still keep going back to that. So did they walk me through the process of getting you involved? Did they scan you? Like, did they have like a scanning and then they built you that way? Did they ask you for like insight into your moveset or things that you have done in the ring that you would like to do in the game? Where did they approach you for your input, if they even did?
Yes, and also no, and a little bit I'm not sure.
Okay.
So many moons ago, we definitely were scanned. Okay. It was early in the morning. I hadn't had coffee, and I don't tend to pay attention to a lot of things. So I wasn't quite sure what that was for. It may have just been some guy stealing my identity. I don't know.
Oh, no.
But there was a team of guys there, and I know that part of it was for the action figures.
Okay.
So I don't know if they took some of that data for the game, or if they just our amazing photographer, one of our amazing photographers, Speedy, takes reference photos weekly. He like gets right up in your face. He's doing details. He's taking everything. So I know there were tons of reference photos taken as well.
Cool.
So maybe between the two, that's where they went with the 3D modeling. And I've probably given him a heart attack between getting new tattoos and changing my hair constantly. They probably can't keep up. I'm surprised they still let me be in the game.
Stop it.
Yeah, like probably the bane of their existence right now. But no, the team that did the development has knocked it out of the park. Not just with me, but like with every character model I've seen, looks amazing. As far as move sets, yeah, we definitely Excalibur he's a walking wrestling encyclopedia.
That's
He's
cool.
like I don't even know what you would call it, like the arc of wrestling. Like if anything were to ever happen to wrestling, you could rebuild wrestling off of Excalibur's knowledge alone. It's
wow.
insane. But yeah, we had a little sit down chit chat with him and went over moves and like signature moves, trademark moves, not trademark moves, but signature moves and special moves, things like that. So I'm sure he provided some insight into the game as well. Outside of that, I really don't know. We did do some voice capture, so that was pretty fun. That was pretty cool, a unique experience. That's about it.
That's cool.
No mocap.
No mocap.
I didn't get to do mocap. I'm sure somebody did, but I didn't. That is on my bucket list. If anybody out there is listening, let me do some motion cap.
Let Nyla Rose do motion capture. Hashtag motion Nyla Rose for motion capture. Pick a game. Go. Pick a studio.
Any game.
Any game. Let her be
racing game.
Let her be Kratos in the next game. I'm sure she can do it.
Yeah.
Speaking our language now. So I want to get you out on this. A fun question. A friend of mine, Sean. Hello, Sean. Brought reference to me a thread or a post where someone had delivered pizza to your house. And I think it was your partner at the time, or hopefully still your partner, or else this is a very awkward question. Opened the door in an AEW shirt, and the person said, "Oh, AEW, who do you like?" And they had this whole conversation. And then the next time they were going to deliver, you were going to get the pizza in your gear. Did this happen?
So, listen, I respect the heritage of wrestling, much like our forefathers and our founding mothers of wrestling of the 80s. I'm in gear all the time. When my figure came out, I went to Walmart and rip away pants.
That's fantastic.
I fully intended to go purchase my figure in full gear as a happy problem. I was sold out, so I didn't get a chance to do that yet. But I'm going to circle back and do that. So it was a little bit of a mix-up. Wasn't pizza. It was Instacart or whichever one where they deliver groceries.
Yeah.
There was crazy day. Couldn't get out of the house for groceries. I was out of town, and they delivered the groceries. My wife had on AEW shirt, and they were like, "Oh yeah, the AEW, I love it." They had a little chit chat. So she tells me about it, and I'm like, "This is incredible. Order groceries." She's like, "We don't need anything." I'm like, I don't care. Order stuff. Like we always need toilet paper.
Find something.
Yeah, like toilet paper, soap. Like everybody needs that at all times. Like order $100 worth of that. So we just ordered just random stuff, and we did it for a couple of weeks, hoping to get this girl again, but she never showed up again.
Oh no.
Yeah.
It's a shame. Well, if that person happens to be listening, will you please deliver to this house so we can get this moment on social media? It's something that everybody would really like to see. But I have to say now, I don't think I've laughed as much in an interview as I have with this one. It has been fantastic talking with you. Nyla Rose and the rest of All Elite Wrestling will be at the Liacouras Center tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern on Temple University's campus. If you don't have tickets, they are still available. Go to AEW.com and get those. Nyla, thank you so much for your time. Look forward to seeing you in the ring. I will actually be there for once. And hopefully next time we talk, you'll have a nice piece of gold around your waist.
Oh, yeah. Maybe.
That would be nice.
Maybe.
Nyla, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Coming up after the break, we're talking Wrestlequest with MegaCat Studios, giving us all the latest on their upcoming pro wrestling RPG. Stick around. Yes, folks, welcome back to Cheesesteaks and Controllers. Thank you very much to Nyla Rose for sitting with me, AEW Dynamite, in Liacouras Center at Temple University tonight, if you're listening when the podcast goes live, Wednesday, September 28th. If you're listening after the fact, well, you missed it, and that sucks for you. But what will not suck for you is our next interview. If you have not heard about this game yet, I am excited to be the one to bring it to your attention. Take professional wrestling and mix it with an RPG. And what do you get? You get Wrestlequest from the folks at MegaCat Studios. And with me right now from MegaCat is the founder of the studio, James Deighan, and the head of the studio, Zack Manko. He is not a fruit, he is a meat. James, Zack, how are you guys today?
Great, man.
Very protein dense. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I almost called him Mango, in case you're wondering why I made that joke. So first and foremost, Wrestlequest. I would have never, in my wildest dreams, put professional wrestling and RPG together. But the more I see about this, the more it seems like a very natural fit. Where did this idea to blend these two genres come from?
Yeah, when we were conceptualizing the game, we realized that really story is the foundation of both RPGs and pro wrestling. I mean, clearly, like, RPGs are narrative-based, character-based, but wrestling is not just about, people throwing each other around in the ring. It's about these larger-than-life personalities, and then all the storytelling that goes on. The dramatic reveals, the betrayals, all of that. So it's really foundational to both. So it's a pretty natural fit, really.
Yeah, I mean, they are just based on larger than life. That is 100% true. And the more I think about it, yeah, you almost sort of see the same kind of stories in pro wrestling that you do in an RPG. So did you want to make a pro wrestling game first? Did you want to make an RPG? Or was it always hey, pro wrestling would really fit in an RPG. Let's see what we can do with this. How did that conceptual piece start to get to where you are now?
So we wanted initially to make a wrestling game.
Okay.
And as we were discussing, I guess I want to call it, like, the visual identity and like the creative pillars we wanted to address, we started looking at how we could take these pixel art characters and make them look unique, despite this 30 years of Super Fire Pro and independent games and 50 other wrestling games. And we stumbled in first to the action figure aesthetic, and we found out that in many cases the earliest memories, the most cherished memories a lot of our colleagues and friends who are big wrestling fans had were being introduced to the toys. I personally had that memory as well, and that became like the the visual identity that opened up this kind of play experience of we can do a lot more with an action figure. You can rip an arm off and glue them back together, and it starts to feel like it fits some of the analogs of what happens when you beat your body up as a wrestler. And as we were kind of chasing our North Star of like what our dream wrestling project would be, we ran into that other realization that the storytelling and like the spectacle of these larger than life personalities cutting promos and having these insanely cool like walk-ons, and those pieces were harder to communicate in like a simulation wrestling arcade experience.
Sure.
And we just decided we wanted to make an RPG because that's been our long-standing team goal. It's such a huge type of genre to meet player expectations. We just knew it was going to be a real bear to tackle the way we wanted to. So we had to really slow cook this one to get it where we wanted and be able to take the bites that we thought were going to satisfy like a core wrestling fan's dream.
Yeah, so you're kind of winning a handicap match here, to paraphrase an old cliche. You're killing two birds with one stone. You're winning the tag team match with one wrestler. That was a really ham-fisted way to do that. I'm very sorry. So let's talk about the game's story itself. So we are following Randy Muchacho Man Santos, right? Did I get that right?
That's right.
That's fantastic. So I have to ask, did you originally come up with this concept for this character and then later on realized, oh wait, we can actually get Macho Man? Or was it like you wanted to try to get the wrestlers and Randy Santos was always your hero? Because I would, if I had to guess, I would say that you came up with this original character and then later on it was like, oh, we could actually use the real guy. Is that how that worked, or am I off base?
No, you're right. And that was like the original dream board included Macho Man. We think he's the greatest wrestler of all time. Him and then Jeff Jarrett. But as we were kind of discussing what our dream list looked like, the initial was, let's get the framework, let's get the game past like an alpha 2 phase, let's get deep enough into it that we really know what we want for total gameplay content and places, and then let's see if we can find a way to work within the licensing limitations and guide rails of all these larger than life characters from this old world of like early days territory wrestling. So once we reached out to our top, I guess, 10 folks we wanted to work with, like 9 of them like fairly enthusiastically jumped in. We found out that there was just awesome. This massive, I know it really was. It was there's this massive camaraderie with professional wrestlers from that era, that once you have the trust of one, they basically roll the red carpet out to their colleagues and friends and say, hey, this is James from MegaCat. They're working on this really strange thing that's never been done before. And I'm backing it, I'm supporting it, I'm part of it. What do you think? And then they all pretty quickly, eventually we had more wrestlers than we could fit in Wrestlequest, which also is why the game has like 50 hours of content, because
50 hours, heck yeah,
we're just massive fans. And it's like every time we have one of our favorite wrestlers or their estates jump in and give us approval, and then make sure we were not stepping on any landmines with WWE, which was a lot of effort to meet all these pre-qualifications. We would just have to find parity between each wrestler's content, because there's some people will have very fond memories of Junkyard Dog, and other people it might be Andre the Giant, and we need to have the right amount of content for each wrestler to really pay into their legendary status and kind of do them service.
Yeah, I imagine if you're going to say that you have someone like an Andre the Giant, you want them to be a part of the game. You don't want them to just show up in the background, say hey, and then peace out. So that does make sense. So I'm curious, how many times have you thought you had your entire story, and then all of a sudden you get another wrestler and you're like, now what do we do? Has that happened a couple times throughout the development process?
Yeah, it's happened quite a few times. We had a pretty tough moment too whenever we lost Bret Hart. That was a huge amount of effort for the studio, like massive number of months for 30 people, and then having that become unsigned during his WWE likeness deal, which is like a massive hit to us too. And we also had the highs of some of our favorite wrestlers that we didn't think were going to be possible, from all the other details and commitments they had come back to life. So I remember whenever we got the phone call back that Rocky Johnson was clear, we're all pretty excited. And
that's a cool one.
Yeah, we have some really great wrestlers like that have never been given like the big main stage in a storytelling game or even a wrestling game in some cases. And it's just been it's been a real super fan roller coaster.
Yeah, let's talk about some of that talent. So obviously, Macho Man, we've seen Andre the Giant, we've seen Jake Roberts, we've seen the Road Warriors. Are there? You mentioned Junkyard Dog and Rocky Johnson. Are there any other wrestlers that you're excited to bring to the game that will be part of the WrestleQuest experience?
Yeah, I mean, we have some really great wrestlers that we haven't announced yet publicly. I'm trying to think of like some of my favorites that I think are going to pop up for some folks, like LA Park and Ultimo Dragon. I think they're just large life personalities. Like,
love that.
Major memories of both of those guys just like popping off the screen before I even knew their names. Like, I wanted to be their friend,
Mm-hmm. So does the wrestlers? So those are Lucha Libre that I just heard. That kind of ties into my next question about the setting of the game. I was watching a dev walkthrough with you guys on the Skybound Games YouTube channel. Go check it out if you haven't already. And you were talking about how the territories, the old territory format from the old days, kind of fits into your overarching story for the game. So there's different towns that have different sorts of wrestling styles. Is that kind of like what we're going to be doing here? We're going to be learning all the different styles of wrestling to become the greatest wrestler of all time.
Yeah, in the game world, we really wanted to showcase sort of every flavor that wrestling has to offer. So there's a Lucha Libre themed town. There's a hardcore town. It's very like ECW inspired, lots of barbed wire and things like that. There's a strong style Japanese wrestling town. So again, it's really about, like you mentioned, the territories, and then also showcasing these regional styles. And that is built into the plot as well, as the villain of the game is attempting to make his promotion the only promotion throughout the game world through various means, and you'll experience that as you play through. You'll see him kind of like manipulating things to become like the only game in town, essentially.
A wrestling promoter trying to make his own promotion the only one. That sounds familiar, but I can't quite put my finger on it. I'm not going to say any names. Also, I'm going to cross my fingers that the hardcore town, the hardcore section of the game, is just basically like a street corner in South Philly with Joe Hand, the ECW arena, all those standing right there. That would be awesome. So we're looking at we're looking at it coming soon. Very excited about that. So what is one thing? I guess my question is, if there's an RPG fan who's not necessarily a pro wrestling fan, but likes to give any RPGs a shot, what is it about WrestleQuest that should pull them in, even if they don't really know the like what strong style is or lucha libre is? They may know Macho Man and Andre the Giant from their universal appeal, but they don't know like the nitty gritty nuts and bolts of wrestling. Where does this game appeal to them?
I would say there's two parts to that. One is that our goal, design-wise, was to take that classic JRPG formula and then just improve it by WrestleFying everything. So our combat system, for example, we take that turn-based system, and then we add so many wrestling elements that it's like this new beast where it's more it's faster paced. There's more action. There's more things to make you like kind of sit forward and pay attention. So you can't just skim by on autopilot tapping the fight or the attack button. For example, there's a thing called a hype meter, which is this indication of the audience's engagement with the match. So in the game, you're putting on a show during combat. So it's all about mixing up your moves and approaching battles with strategy and creativity to keep them entertained. Because if you don't, that meter will drain out, and then your enemies get stronger, and you start losing abilities and everything.
Interesting.
So the way we redesign the turn-based combat, I think, is number one. If you're an RPG fan, this is something that blows you away. Number two, just in general, the game world is very fun and different. It's not another like medieval European fantasy type thing. It's its own setting. It's very fresh, and we've kept like the non-RPG players in mind with how we wrote the story and how we introduce wrestling elements. Little by little. There's characters in the game who aren't wrestling fans, so they often, act as kind of like a voice for the characters that might not, or the players that might not know about wrestling. So
that's cool.
Try to make it an easy, like, if you don't know anything about wrestling, but you like RPGs, there's something here for you. If you like wrestling, but don't know anything about, if you like RPGs, but know anything about wrestling, same thing. And there's something here for you.
No, that's cool. I like that. I like that your universal appeal, because I also feel like it could potentially teach those RPG fans who don't know anything about pro wrestling things about pro wrestling. Did you have that this could be a learning moment for some people in mind when you were developing some of the things in this game?
Just jumping in, like we've always had a healthy fear around like making it ultra niche, where it's pixel art and it's an RPG and it's wrestling, and these audiences don't always intersect. And what we really created is something that's just been deeply iterated on over a few years now. So it can be somebody's first RPG and they can pick it up and play.
That's cool.
One of our core game system comps was like Super Mario RPG. A
lot
of folks.
Oh man,
that's like how we got vacuumed into RPGs. And so I think that holds true. And we have some really great, I want to call them like memories because they're so recent, but we've had some really awesome experiences where we were at PAX West this year. We had one of the press folks we were following up with that had come visited us at PAX East, wrote us an email about how he like discovered wrestling through WrestleQuest, and and how he's like he just liked the announcement trailer so much that when he played the game and he saw that it had a lot of similar commonalities to some of his favorite animes, he like started just dipping his toe in. And we've had people leave demos that ask us, if I'm going to start watching wrestling, like, where do I start? Like, well, what's my first thing that's going to get me gripped? And it's just been an incredible experience to kind of be an ambassador for these things that we love so much. And, and especially the fact that like the non-wrestling fans, I would say, like it just as much as the wrestling fans, because at its core, it's just a JRPG in a toy world. So we kind of described it initially in this mood board as like a Toy Story with a Lord of the Rings quest through the lens of wrestling, and that's been like a guiding star like throughout the development, and that we we think rings pretty true for someone who wants to jump in, and that spans all these other kind of facets of geek royalty.
Yeah.
So definitely been it's been so much fun though to watch people experience it, because it's held up to those different audience types pretty well.
I'm now imagining in my head the Fellowship of the Ring traveling to Mordor in spandex and glittery robes, and the vision in my head is beautiful, to say the least. And also the fact that you name dropped Super Mario RPG, which is, and I've gone record on this show, like top 5 all-time RPG of mine.
Nice.
So thank you for that. It's just, the hype is just getting higher. Stop it. But so one last question for you. Obviously, you're still in the coming soon phase. We don't know exactly when it's coming out. What would you tell your fans who are impatiently waiting, like myself, as far as when they'll be able to play it? Maybe if there's a demo out now, that sort of thing. Where can they find the game right now, and where can they follow you for updates if they so choose?
Well, working backwards from that, it's Wrestlequest.com.
Cool.
And MegaCatStudios.com. All of our social is at MegaCat Studios.
Cool.
As far as next time to see WrestleQuest, we have another event we're going to be active about that we haven't announced yet. That's coming up soon. Hopefully, you're some West Coast natives. You can make the matriculation and party with us. But we are so excited to have whatever the next Steam demo fest is or something of that nature, because the game is it's ready for people to jump in and enjoy. We're in like a phase of development where it's really just about balancing and nailing down the final bug. So it's just been so much time and effort going into it. Watching the reception be so positive, it's just been great.
And Zach, do you want to add to that?
No, I think it covered it all. WrestleQuest will be coming to you soon.
Yeah, can't wait for that. Well, James, Zach, thank you so much for your time today. Love talking WrestleQuest. Can't wait to get my hands on it. Check out their socials, as they said, at MegaCat Studios or WrestleQuest.com to get more information. Thank you so much for your time, gentlemen. Good luck with launch whenever that is, and I look forward to playing the exploits of Randy Muchacho Man Santos. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Coming up after the break, we sit down with Anakin from the Red Bull Fighting Games team to talk about the present and future of the Tekken fighting scene. Stick around. All right, folks, welcome back to Cheesesteaks and Controllers. Thank you to Nyla Rose and MegaCat Studios for already giving us 2 fantastic interviews in this jam-packed episode, but we are not done. We have one more happening now, and we're going to shift a little bit from pro wrestling to pro fighting games. I've long said that fighting games are the future of competitive video games. They are the easiest to understand from a casual standpoint, and I feel like that's where the appeal is. And one of the best fighting games to watch is Tekken. If you have not watched a Tekken tournament, I highly suggest you do so. And when you do so, make sure you watch our next guest here, one of the best players from North America, and a player on a character that I just can't seem to figure out. So I'm definitely going to poke his brain on that. This is Hua Lu, but you know him on the scene as Anakin. Anakin, how are you today?
I'm doing good. It's been a long month. I've pretty much been on the road the whole time, starting with like the ECT in the States. And since then, it's been like 1 week, one tournament in a different country. We had Only the Best in Italy, and then followed by Rev Major, which was 2 weeks ago in the Philippines. And then I actually extended my stay for a little bit longer overseas. And I just took a detour over to Seoul, South Korea, and played in their big tournament as well. That just took place over this past weekend. And finally, just ready to get into this regional finals. Like this tour that we've been going through this year is a little different, and there's like an extra phase to it where you have to qualify into the global tournament after your season. So that's kind of what a lot of players are anxious and nervous about, where usually your points would be good enough to get you into the global finals. You travel all season and get those points. Now you have to actually earn your spot after that. So It's going to be interesting. I think, a lot of people are going to be nervous. There might be some upsets here and there. Some people might not be able to make it in. So I think that's kind of like one of the reasons why they implemented this regional finals format, along with just putting the highlight and the spotlight on other lesser known regions, just getting them to have some shine for once. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting time for sure, with the tour kind of wrapping up the regular season portion of everything.
Yeah, I feel like Tekken specifically, after the rise of like the Pakistani region with Arslan Ash and all those players, does do that a lot. They try to highlight pockets of lesser known communities because they don't know where that next star is going to come from. Obviously, America is well represented, Korea very well represented in this game. Do you prefer those smaller tournaments in newer places, like Only the Best in Italy? I didn't even know Italy had a tournament. Do you prefer those, or do you prefer like the big ones, like your CEOs, your Evos, or stuff like that?
Well, each like the big tournaments and the little tournaments come with their advantages and disadvantages and everything like that. Like I personally prefer the much larger tournaments, and that's where you're going to get a lot of potential for big upsets. The big tournaments where everybody can enter like that. People kind of get drawn to those big crowds. Like when you watch those spectacles online on stream, you get a really good sense of how epic these tournaments are. Just watching like the crowd in the background and everything like that. So with that said, like the crowd a lot of times helps me excel and rise above my usual level in tournaments and everything like that, and I kind of look for the hype to carry me on. So without that, I wouldn't say necessarily that I'm like weak or anything, but like I know that like I'm one of those guys that likes to rise to the occasion, and the pressure and everything like that is something that I kind of thrive off of, and that's a big part of the reason why I like to actually be on stage at those big tournaments with everybody watching and everything. But on the other hand, the small tournaments, they kind of have that more like underground, like old school fighting game community feel. Like I've been competing for 20 years now, and a lot of tournaments that I came up playing in were those small, like at somebody's house or at the arcade or at like a small venue and everything like that. And it doesn't even have to be that small, because these days, a tournament where it's like 100 or so players with the scene growing as much as it has, that's kind of considered like smaller, quote unquote, these days. So it all depends. It's all relative, depending on how much experience you've had, where you've been and everything like that. Tournaments can be large, small, or whatever, but at the end of the day, it's all about like the actual players who are there, like who's going to be there, who are the favorites and everything like that. So I think these days, all tournaments from all over the world, wherever you're going to be at, they're always going to have those killers that you got to prepare for.
So I'm looking at your record here on Liquipedia just from your last couple of tournaments, and I noticed you were here in this area for Summer Jam back in August. Made it to the fifth or sixth. Very good placement there, as to be expected. You lost to a guy named Victim of Ritual, who I don't think I've ever even heard of before. Is that a good example of a guy that came out of nowhere and you're like, whoa, this guy beat the crap out of me?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Victim of Ritual was a player who's been playing for a long time now. I remember doing battle with him back in like Tekken 5 DR, which was kind of like around the 07, 08 days.
Okay.
But just one of those days where I think I was the favorite in that match, I'll be honest, but it just didn't go my way. And the longer you compete, the more you realize that nobody's unbeatable, and like you're gonna have those days where you don't play up to standard. And I guess he played also really well. Like I remember just not being able to do anything against him. It was a really tough fight, Nina Williams, and I did manage to end up fifth. It was definitely well below my expectations. Summer Jam is a tournament that I really like to enjoy. I've won a few times, and the tournament organizer Big E is really, really cool and everything.
Love that guy.
You know Big E? I didn't know you guys.
Yeah.
He's awesome. He's awesome.
Yeah, I've been to a couple of his tournaments.
Big staple up in the Northeast.
Yeah, but trying to get him on this show, he keeps eluding me. Come on, E. One of these times, I'm gonna get you. But anyway, so are we coming back for NEC?
Oh yeah, I mean, I've actually never been to an NEC, and it's just the way that the calendar goes. It's always at the end of the year in December, and a lot of people are preparing for like the holidays and everything like that.
That's true.
He's always asking me about it, and it's always one of those tournaments that I just want to check off my list and attend. So I think this year might be the year where I actually get to do that.
Oh, that's awesome. So talk to me about, we mentioned the big tournaments and the pressure and the stage. So as you get further into a tournament, like I'm thinking top 8 at EVO or top 8 at CEO, how do you deal with that? How do you get yourself into a position where you know that basically all of the eyes that are watching this thing are on you in your match? How do you block that out and just focus? Do you have like something you put on headphones? Do you just tune it out? Like, what's your strategy to dealing with that pressure? And is it hard to describe just how intense that can be?
Well, I think it varies from person to person, and you kind of hit the nail on the head. Like you asked me, how do I block it out and focus? And that would be literally the answer that I would give you, is that I'm focused so much on the matches and the competition, and a lot of times I'm focused on my opponent. There is so much to prepare for when you know exactly in these open tournaments who you're facing, who you potentially could be facing. If you know you're a favorite in a match, you can go ahead and write your name on through to the next round and see who your potential opponents are. this is kind of like the preparation that you would take as a professional player when you're going to these big tournaments. So just with that said, like there's a lot of homework to be done leading up into the event. And then when it comes time to play at the tournaments, you take account all the upsets that happen, all the unpredictable brackets that take place, and then you see where you fall in like the brackets and everything. And once you get opponents lined up, and like you said, it's top 8 at Evo, it's top 8 at CEO, you're only playing world-class players. So a lot of times the guys that I'm playing against at that phase in tournament, I've already played prior in past tournaments, past years, everything like that, and we kind of have had a history develop and everything. And sometimes you look to how the sets go in the past to kind of determine how you want to game plan for the future. You kind of want to look at some of their match videos. So there's so much to do that they're really, in my opinion, there's no time to sit there and kind of be nervous or to think about, oh man, there's the crowd, what the stakes are and everything like that. I'm really just so focused on playing my best. And it's something that a piece of advice that my father gave me at my very first tournament when I was a kid. He was just, telling me to focus on playing my best, not to worry about winning or losing, because if you end up playing your best, the winning or the losing is going to end up happening. And it's easier said than done to be able to play your best if you're traveling, especially sometimes players come from other countries. It's hard to sometimes just hard to play your game and do what you'd normally do on a regular day. And I think that's the best way for me to play really well, is just to be calm, be focused, and is just really focus on my match. There's a lot to think about when you're playing a game of Tekken, and to be able to display your skill and your game plan, all your potential. It's just a short 2 out of 3 set. It's sometimes can be nerve-wracking, like you said, especially when things don't go according to plan in that match. So at that time, there's really no space to just like get nervous or to sit there and feel pressure. You just have to adapt. You have to roll the punches and just play your game.
So let's talk about the character that you use. You're a Jack player. Jack has been in since the very first Tekken. For those who may have remembered Tekken back in the day but aren't playing now, he's the big, burly robot dude with the mohawk and the glowing eyes. I have never in my life been able to figure Jack out. Maybe prototype Jack in Tekken 2, but that's it. So what about that character appealed to you? You said, or before we started, you've been playing him for over a decade now. So we're talking Tekken 5, maybe even Tekken 4. You started with him. What about that character drew you to him, and how have you been able to maintain that all these years?
I guess so. To start off, I play out of Atlanta, Georgia, and we have like a rich history of players just kind of over the years, like our legends and our top players over the years, just kind of like share a very similar roster base. Like a lot of the guys coming up, we played a lot of Paul, we played a lot of Law, we played a lot of Jack. And if I don't know, it was just one of those characters that I picked up along the way as an up-and-coming player. But it wasn't really until Tekken 5, Tekken 6, where I made the switch to Jack permanently in tournaments. I was playing a character named Roger Jr. It was like the Kangaroo joke
Kangaroo! Yeah.
Before that, I was doing the tail sweeps and the flipper kick on people and all these weird moves. But between Tekken 5 and Tekken 6, I remember, they make changes to characters, and the changes that they made to Roger weren't exactly suited to my playing style. And then, as a competitive player, you always got your bench, you always got your roster, you always got these side characters that you're playing, whether it's to improve enough to play them in tournaments or to just gain experience enough to battle and be comfortable against them in tournaments. You're always looking to be a more well-rounded player. Like there really isn't like a world-class player out there that literally only plays one character. Everybody's kind of got characters in their back pocket for days. And it was just one tournament where I ended up doing really bad with Roger and really well with Jack. When I had switched up and went to the losers bracket, I was like, hey, took a shot and was like, I got nothing to lose. I'm already in losers. Let me just try Jack. And it actually went really well. And since then, after that, I tried them out a little bit more in tournaments, and I managed to win like one of the largest tournaments at the time. There was this tournament called MLG, Major League Gaming.
Okay, yeah.
It was kind of the first time that we ever had Tekken kind of embedded into an esports style like event where you go to like the convention center and you got the passes. There's all this spectacle, all these other games on stage and everything like that. So that was kind of like Tekken players' first taste of just being a part of like competitive esports, professional gaming. It was really early still at the time. So yeah, somehow I managed to win that tournament with Jack. And I guess the rest is history. Once you manage to to get a win of that magnitude, you really feel that sense of loyalty. You stick with him throughout the years, and throughout the years, we as in me and Jack, we've been able to win a lot of tournaments together. And he's one of those characters in the game that relatively has remained unchanged. Just a real basic character where you get to take advantage of your actual Tekken skills and abilities. And one of my strengths is my ability to read my opponents and just my instincts, my gut feeling, and I always go off of that. And a lot of times it works out in tournaments. And Jack's one of those characters that really allows you to build off those strengths and kind of like take advantage of what you're good at.
So if you're thinking about Jack for the future, as there is another Tekken game coming out, we'll get to the game itself in a general sense shortly. But if we're talking about where you would like to see Jack go, should he be included, which let's face it, he should, in the next game, what would you like to see added to his arsenal, or do you just want him to stay as is? He's good and you're good.
I'm just hoping that he's all the things that I do personally, like where I like to mix people up with like the low attacks and the mid, just keep it simple. And they're definitely gonna make changes. I'm not sure where they could go, but in my opinion, like he's perfect the way he is. Like one of those characters that they've nailed perfectly. I think he's been pretty similar for the past 3 Tekkens now, minus a few changes and everything. I guess if you were to like make him better on the tier list, some things you can do is just like give him a whole like overall like damage buff or things like that. He doesn't necessarily need like game-changing moves added to his arsenal, because I think that if you do that and you keep his current tool set, then you run the risk of making him too strong. And now all of a sudden you got everybody playing Jack and everything like that. Right now, he's kind of like a specialty character. A lot of people don't value him very highly in the tournament tier list. And so he can kind of go under the radar a lot of times. And that's exactly where I want to be. I don't want to be the guy that gets scouted by everybody and everything like that. I want my character to be the guy that everybody underestimates so that I can come to the tournament and surprise a lot of people. But yeah, I would be happy with he's a very poke heavy character. And the more your pokes deal, the better it is, because you have to do less pokes in order to win the round. It's all about getting your opponent's health bar to 0. So if you're dealing like little 5% at a time, it'd be better if you dealt like 7% on the bar, 8% off the bar on all your pokes and everything. You'll just end up winning more rounds as a result. And I don't know. I'm not much of a game developer. I just kind of play the game and enjoy it. So I feel like whatever they do with the character, I'll be happy with. And if they do something that I'm not happy with, then maybe I can find somebody else that I'm good with.
Are there any characters on the roster that you've been like, I would like to try that, but you never had a chance to really sit down with?
Yeah, I played Paul Phoenix. And I mentioned that Paul Phoenix earlier. He's also one of those characters that's real basic and has all the tools in the game and can really like capitalize on your ability to read your opponents and just play basic Tekken. Mm-hmm. He's another one of those characters that I feel like is going to remain largely unchanged in Tekken. He's pretty much been the same since the very beginning, and that's why he's one of those like legacy characters. He's in every single Tekken, and they always find a way to just keep him competitive with the rest of the cast while just not doing much to him. He's got that move called the Death Fist and everything, and I think that would be my first choice. Otherwise, I'd probably experiment with everybody in the game. Like that's kind of like one of your duties and responsibilities as a competitive pro player is that you can't not know how to fight against the character. So in order to be able to do that, you kind of have to get firsthand experience playing as that character. There's no better way to know how to think like your opponent other than to play your opponent's characters. And so that's what I'm really good at doing as well. I'm someone that just overall likes to play the game. Even it doesn't have to be my main character. It doesn't have to be a character that I'm comfortable with. In fact, I'd rather play a character that I haven't had a lot of experience playing against, so that I can either get new ideas or I can get new perspectives on everything like that. So looking forward to the new characters for sure, whatever they decide to bring out. Tekken 7 brought, I think, the most new characters that we've ever had in any Tekken.
Sounds right.
Tekken 8 is going to blow that out the water.
I think so too. Looking forward to Tekken 8. Are there any characters, even from other properties? Like once Tekken got weird with Negan from The Walking Dead, anybody's on the table. Anybody at all. So is there a character from another property, another game, a show, something like that you think would fit well into the Tekken franchise?
I think that anything could fit well. Like you said, like they added Negan, they added a Final Fantasy character, Street Fighter character.
That's true, yeah.
And when we first got to see the trailers and everything, the question is, how are they going to pull this off? How are they going to have a meter character? How are they going to have a character that doesn't even have any history being in a fighting game or anything like that? But they did it, and they did it really well. So, like you said, anything's on the table. And when I was actually commentating a tournament over the weekend, and I asked the guy who I was commentating with, and he threw out one of the most random. He named like a character from Toy Story. You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh, that's like the pink evil bear from the third Toy Story or something. And I was like, that's so random, but I could see them doing that. You know, I could see them doing just about anything at this point. For me, I guess this would be kind of ridiculous, but one of my most favorite shows growing up was the Power Rangers. I would literally just watch Power Rangers every day at the same, every day after school, every season from like the very beginning, Mighty Morphin, all the way up until I was too old to watch Power Rangers. And even to this day, I'll go ahead and crank up the Netflix and watch a little retro episode here and there. So like whatever, like maybe they could add like a legendary character from Power Rangers. Not necessarily maybe like a Power Ranger, but like a big villain, like Lord Zed, or maybe one of my favorites was I don't want to nerd out too much, but let's just I guess you could say Lord Zed, or maybe like the bad guy from In Space, the big the green guy. I forgot his name.
His name
with a D or something. But
yeah, he's in Battle for the Grid too, and I can't remember his name.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that would be awesome. I do love the weird fighting game crossovers, because if it's something I've never watched before, it introduces me to them. Or if it's something that I was familiar with, like in Negan's case, I was watching Walking Dead at the time. It's just a crossover you never expect, and that's awesome. So, Anakin, thank you very, very much for your time. I will let you get back to it. Looking forward to your next competition as the World Tour wraps up. Hope to see you at a tournament soon, but not in the tournament soon, because that would basically just be a bye week for you, and I don't want to have to deal with that. So, but thank you very much for your time. Appreciate your answers. This has been great. We'll talk to you very soon.
Thank you, Jason. Have a good one.
And with that, we are at the end of episode number 113 of the Cheesesteaks and Controllers podcast. As always, presented by Fox PHL The Gambler, 102.5 FM, 1480 AM, iHeartRadio, and wherever you get your podcasts. Big thank you to Nyla Rose, MegaCat Studios, and Anakin for sitting down with me for this episode to talk about pro wrestling, wrestling RPGs, and fighting games. It was a packed episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. I hope you were entertained. And as I say at the end of every episode, if you're listening to these words right now, that means you made it to the end, and I am eternally grateful that you stuck with me throughout this entire show. We will be back again next Friday, not this coming Friday, the 30th. We'll be back the following Friday with more of the latest and greatest in both esports and video games. If you're headed down to AEW Dynamite at the Liacouras Center, hope to see you there. If not, I hope you have a fantastic weekend. I hope you have an even better week right behind it, and I will be back next week. Goodbye.